I don't think it's over. I mean, he blatantly took out Elliott. I think that he will take personally what Chase Elliott said in his interview. That's not going to sit well with Kevin Harvick.
Hey race fans, welcome to another episode of Backseat Drivers, here with my resident analyst, Mamba Smith, and we have a special guest, a friend here on the show from NBC Sports, Nate Ryan. I am Alex Weaver, and it's time to recap the Roval because, man, Charlotte Motor Speedway did not disappoint. So, Nate, first of all, welcome. I know it's been a busy week for everybody in the sport, the home race of NASCAR's backyard, and it was a little crazy. So let's get right into it. I want to start first with, obviously, the elephant in the room, the 5 of Kyle Larson. He wins. We were wondering when the 5 was going to show up. He showed up in a dominant fashion. So were you impressed or even surprised by Larson's victory?
Yeah, I was hugely impressed, Alex, by the win. And I know that, that might be a little bit odd to say because we're talking about the winningest driver in the Cup Series this year. And right now, a lot of people probably consider him the championship favorite. But this was a team that was outside the championship cutoff halfway through this race and had these major problems with the battery, with the alternator, had to make some major repairs during the race. And I don't care how many wins you have or, what kind of championship medal your team might have demonstrated throughout the year. When you reach this point at crunch time in a cutoff playoff race and are able to raise your game and deliver like this and, come from deep in the field to win the race, I was hugely impressed and surprised. And I think a huge testament, not just to Kyle Larson, but to Cliff Daniels, the crew chief, and that team for their grace under pressure and their ability to fix the car while also staying on top of all the, divergent strategies that were going on during the course of that race. I thought just A+ job by both Kyle Larson and the number 5 team.
Yeah, Mamba, Nate said it best too of here with at one point, Kyle Larson was below the elimination line of the race yesterday. So it was kind of looking like a dismal day. Were you impressed or surprised by the number 5?
Look, you guys know I picked Larson. So I'm not surprised. Look, I'm not surprised. I picked him. He should have won because I picked him. No, they did a great job. I talked to Cliff Daniels before the race a little bit. And I was just like, man, you guys are battle tested now. Like, you guys have gone through it, and you can't win a championship without going through it. And I really thought that the Roval was where they're going to turn it all around, where they're going to get this thing headed straight for Phoenix. And they had to win here. And they had to win for their team as much as they did for the point situation. So I'm not surprised. They got great leadership. They got a great core mechanics over there, and they got one of the best drivers in the business right now. So hats off to Larson. Thanks for making me look smart again, buddy.
Yeah. Did anybody get the time on that, on how long it took Mamba to talk about him being right and picking the winner? Because I don't even know if we made it 5 minutes into the episode. But Cliff Daniels definitely with the right call there to replace that belt and get the 5 back in contention. But on the other side of things, I picked the 9. Nate, I picked the 9 last week. Obviously, when it comes to the Roval, there is nobody that's been more dominant than the 9 as of late. But let's talk about Kevin Harvick and Chase Elliott because we thought it was over. Man, the fat lady has not sung yet on that feud, and we saw the 4 get into the back of the 9, causing the 9 to get into the wall. So, Mamba, I'm turning this one on you. Did Elliott get in Harvick's head when he wrecked in turn 1? Because Elliott was coming.
He was coming, and shout out to the 9 team for putting that car back together. When I was like, man, is this thing done? Like, is his championship hopes over because of all that damage? But the damage was behind the tire, so obviously it worked out, and they did a good job fixing it. But I don't know if he got in his head, right? Like, I'm not going to sit here and be like, Kevin Harvick was rattled. He's a vet. He's a cagey vet at that. So I'm not going to say that. But he was aware of where the 9 was and where he had to be. They were racing each other straight up. He had to beat the 9. And I think he obviously knew that if the 9 got to his bumper and had the chance, he was going to ship him. So he was pressing. It was the end of the race. I think that was more like a racing situation. And I think Kev just overdrove the corner, overdrove the entry, and ended up in the wall and, ended his championship hopes. But the 9 was there. I mean, he was in the mirror. Don't get me wrong. He was definitely there.
All right, Nate, a racing incident, huh?
I think that if Kevin Harvick were being completely candid, he probably was aware that the number 9 was coming. He made some passing reference to, needing to pick up more spots, but he didn't say, oh, I saw the guy I wrecked earlier in my mirror and I was being told on the radio by my spotter that he was coming up the front stretch. So it's difficult to say that was the reason for this error. But I will say that for Kevin Harvick, this was an extremely uncharacteristic error. I mean, this is a guy who is the KG veteran who never makes mistakes like this. So, was he pressed into it because he felt as if payback was coming because the 9 was, maybe 20 or 30 feet behind him heading into turn 1 where Harvick crashed? Possibly, but it's a little bit of a leap to make without hearing it definitively from Kevin Harvick.
I'm just saying it's harder for me to hit my brakes when I'm looking in the rearview mirror. That's all I'm going to say. All right,
Shade.
That is all I'm saying right here. Okay, Nate, so you obviously spoke with both of the drivers. They did media availability following the race. Is it over? Is the feud over?
Yeah, again, Alex, it's hard to say because neither was really giving us much. I can tell you Rick Hendrick wants it to be over. The team owner for Chase Elliott told us that after the race. He said he wants NASCAR to step in. I mean, he's been through these battles before, going all the way back to the 80s. I mean, this is what inspired Days of Thunder storylines with Jeff Bodine when he drove for Rick Hendrick versus Dale Earnhardt. And NASCAR did step in at that point. And I think at this point, Rick Hendrick's probably right. NASCAR probably needs to step in if they want this to be over, because I don't think it's over. I think that, Kevin Harvick spent the last 5 races sort of telling us that, I've kind of moved on. He didn't definitively say that it was done, but he did kind of make it seem like, this will be for another day and maybe not during the 2021 playoffs. So for him to, he blatantly took out Elliott on Sunday at the Roval. I mean, he didn't hide from it. And, that was an intentional wreck. And I think that he will take personally what Chase Elliott said in his interview, the whole, have a merry off season and happy Christmas. That's not going to sit well with Kevin Harvick. And Harvick is a guy who defends not only his reputation and himself, but his team. And I think he probably took that as an affront, not just to himself, but to his team. So if I'm Chase Elliott, I'm a little bit nervous over the next 3 races heading to the championship at Phoenix. And I think that's why Rick Hendrick is a little bit nervous as well.
Mamba, I always post an Instagram at the end of the season for the off season. And I already have my caption. It's going to be, happy off season and Merry Christmas. Well, on the flip side of things, Mamba, Bubba Wallace also tweeted out and talked about it's not even Halloween yet, and we're getting into Christmas with a facepalm emoji. So do you feel the same way? Is it a facepalm emoji? And should this feud be over?
I hope to God it's not. I love it. Inject this right into my veins. This is what the sport is built on. Like we can't, ask for emotion and all this stuff from these guys and then pull it away from them when they start giving it to us. That just doesn't make sense. So I hope that NASCAR stays out of it. I hope the drivers take care of it. Now, that being said, I think that I don't think Kevin's going to do anything necessarily to take Chase's championship chances away, even though I think Kevin probably feels like his championship might have been taken away in Bristol when he had a shot to win the race. I think that Kevin is going to race him hard, but I think the feud might be put on pause. I don't think it might be on. It's definitely not off. We might see it next year right at the Clash. Who knows? But Kevin isn't going to forget about the 2021 season with Chase Elliott in the 9.
Race car drivers never forget. And I'm all about offering my 2 cents today. Apparently, I have a lot of 2 cents to give. So it should be over as far as this season in my mind. The 9 just has a ton to lose going for that back-to-back championship. Let's let it breathe for a while. Probably not the popular answer, but I'm going to go with it. Well, not a good day for Kevin Harvick. He is knocked out of the playoffs and will not compete for a championship through the rest of the playoffs. But we'll get into his season a little bit later because now I want to talk about Team Penske. A solid day and a really solid round of 12 for Team Penske. All 3 cars are into the round of 8, and it's looking a lot like how last season looked, and possibly at least having it won in the championship 4 contending in November. So, Nate, impressed by Team Penske because all 3 cars is a big surprise, I think, for everybody.
It is a surprise, Alex. It's less of a surprise after the first 2 rounds, I think, than heading into the playoffs. I mean, heading into the playoffs, I had Brad Keselowski going out in round 1. I never would have imagined that Penske would have 3 of the final 8 cars going into the round of 8. So it was a huge surprise to me, back in September. Now, the way that Penske has approached the playoffs, and they've really just been grinding it out with Logano, with Keselowski, with Blaney. They don't always have the speed, but they always maximize their points. And I don't think that's any more evident than with Brad Keselowski. I mean, here's a guy, he's only got 1 win this season, but since the playoffs have started, we've seen so many mistakes from so many other championship contenders. Keselowski's team has just been really good with execution. And even when he has a tough day like the Roval, where he finishes 20th and has a couple of spins, they're not making the mistakes in the pits that you see other teams make. And, it seems crazy to think that Brad Keselowski could leave Penske and maybe have a chance to win a second championship in his final race. But it would not surprise me at this point if Brad Keselowski makes the final round. I mean, he's won a championship before on a swan song when Dodge exited in 2012. It could happen again in 2021 where he wins the championship, leaving Penske, as unbelievable as that might seem.
Never count out him and Jeremy Bullins there, especially with all their strategy calls I'm sure they have in the bank coming up for the next 3 races. Mamba, surprised with Team Penske? It's looking more and more like, man, that's a solid team there.
Yeah, no, I am. I'm surprised by the team as a whole. If you were telling me the 12, I'm not surprised by the 12. I think they've shown speed all year long. And obviously Ryan's they've won 3 races. So, but I am surprised by the 22 and the 2. And I love it because I want to see more contenders. I want to see these guys in the mix, messing around with what's going on at Hendrick and Gibbs. We need that. We want that. So it's great to see that. Now, what happens this round? I don't know. I'm not going to bet on them at all. I'm not going to say Penske's going to have 3 in there. I think we're going to see who's going to be in. But Martinsville, Joey Logano, he's not afraid of ruffle feathers. He's going to do whatever is best for Joey Logano. So we'll see how that shapes up.
So now let's do a little drive-through. Nate, first time here, the rookie stripes are on for you. So this is our drive-through, our rapid fire. It's a little bit quick hitters. So we're going to do season ratings because unfortunately there were 4 drivers who were eliminated following the Roval and will not go on to race their way to a championship. So the first one, we touched on it at the start of the show, but let's get into the 4 of Kevin Harvick. What would you rate his 2021 season?
I think I'd give him a B- maybe for 2021. I mean, doesn't have the victory, but didn't always have the fastest car, and I think the team did well to get into the round of 12. So definitely not a typical Kevin Harvick season, but I'd put him above average.
All right, and no retirement for the 4. So guess what? We get to see him in 2022. He can pick that up. Mamba, what's your season rating for Kevin Harvick?
I think I'm around that with what Nate is. Like B-, C+, a little better grade point average than what I had in high school. They didn't have the win. Like, they came off 9 wins. Like, it's hard to back that up, right? It's hard to back up that many wins and that successful of a season. But they weren't always fast, and they just kind of figured it out, and they went deep, and they had a shot to move on to the next round. So there's something to be said for that.
All right, next up, Nate, Christopher Bell in the 20 gets the win at the Daytona Road Course, which feels like 5 years ago. But he did lock himself into the playoffs really early and working with his new crew chief this season.
Yeah, I think that Christopher Bell had a decent first season, Alex. I think, most importantly, like you said, he got that win. He made it through a round of the playoffs. And, I mean, look who's he's teamed with at Joe Gibbs Racing. I mean, he's got 2 champions in Martin Truex Jr. and Kyle Busch, and a guy who could win the championship this year in Denny Hamlin. So to come in there his first year and to show that I think he could run with that group, I think he had, on balance, a successful season.
Letter grade, C?
I would go B. B to B+.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, solid. Mamba, Christopher Bell.
I would give it a B+ to an A, honestly, because he won a race. He won a race, and it's so hard to do that. And you're racing up against the best guys in the country at this level. I got to give him a B+ to an A. He made rounds. And now next year we'll see if he can make the next step and win multiple races or not. But he won a race. He made rounds. Give it to him.
Yeah, got a trophy this year, so it's a successful year for that team. All right, the next one that I want to talk about, multiple win season. I know when I spoke to him on Media Day that he talked about the consistency not necessarily being there. So let's look at the 48 of Alex Bowman, Nate.
I don't want to see he had an average season. I'd probably have to give him at least a B plus for 3 wins. But at the same time, I mean, you look at not making the round of 8 despite all that, and like you said, lacking that consistency for whatever reason. I think there are definitely some questions there to be answered heading into 2022 for Alex Bowman and Greg Ives.
A lot of 3.0 GPAs in the house here. Mamba, what about the 48?
They were fast at times. They put themselves in position to win, and that's very important because they did do that multiple times. Not that many guys did that. It's got to be at least a B, but on the standpoint of where they want to be and where they want to get to, if they made this round, I would call it an A, because I would have said they grinded their way through it, and that earned them an A letter grade. I know that they want to be there, so it's got to be a B. I can't give them much more than that. They had a great year. Don't get me wrong. But to get that A, I need you in the last round there.
All right, and last up is the number 24 of William Byron. At one point in the Roval, it looked like we may get a William Byron just knock-off win again to get to the round of 8. But talk about Mr. Consistency. He started the season out so strong and then kind of struggled towards the end of the playoffs. So, Nate, what would you give the 24 of William Byron?
Yeah, I'd say B minus, Alex. I mean, they did have that win early in the season, Homestead, and, Rudy Fugle came in, I think, as a crew chief in the Cup Series for the first time, did very, very well. Obviously, him and William Byron have a great working relationship, but and they did really well to advance out of the first round with that top 5 at Bristol that was very much under pressure, and they delivered. But yeah, there's this. I think that William Byron might look back at the Roval race and think that he might have approached it differently in later years, because I think he was just pressing just a little bit too much, and I think that was sort of indicative of the season.
Mamba, 24.
24. I'm actually, for them, I'm actually going to give them an A minus, because they grinded it out. Like I was just talking about with Bowman, they did grind it out. They were really good and showed a lot of speed and had so many things happen to them throughout the year. And Rudy came on as the first time crew chief and Cup for him, new change for William. And William answered the bell at Bristol. And honestly, he answered the bell this weekend at the Roval. I was sitting with Max Pappas, Williams' driver coach on road course, for the first 2 stages, and they were making moves and doing what they needed to do. The 8 got into the back of him, getting into that chicane down the back, and you would have thought it was over. And it still wasn't over. He drove all the way back up there and had an opportunity to be there. And I just think that if that doesn't happen and he doesn't have to use his stuff up getting back up through, I think William Byron wins that race. And I think he's in the next round. So I'm going to give Willie B an A minus.
All right, Mamba, you brought it up, so I'm going to go there and let's have a follow-up question. How do we feel about non-playoff drivers racing playoff drivers so hard? Because there's a little bit more on the line when you have that playoff spoiler.
I want the drivers to race hard. They have to put food on their table and a roof over their head. If they don't win too, they might be out. Just because they're not in the playoffs doesn't mean they just roll over. And I think that's important. Also, I think it's important for them to know who they're racing and how hard they're racing them. If it's not for a win per se in that exact moment, I don't really want to see them running over guys. I'd like to see them race with a little bit more caution. But, at the same time, for the playoff guys, don't put yourself in a situation where you can get run over by someone who has nothing to lose. So it's as part of the playoff system. And personally, I love it. If you don't like it, I got nothing for you, because it's exciting as heck to watch.
Nate, do you give the playoff drivers a little bit more of a break if you're out of the playoffs?
If you're a few laps down, yes. If you're, taking out Martin Truex Jr. and you're not in contention for a top 10 or a victory, then I totally get it. But if you're Tyler Reddick going for your first victory and you're, fighting for position in a top 3 spot with William Byron, you have every right to that space on the racetrack. And again, I'll go back to Byron. I think he had 20 laps left at that point. And I think it was as much on him as it was on Reddick. I mean, Reddick's trying to get his first win. He's got as much right to that real estate, I think, as William Byron does. And William Byron's the first guy on new tires going into that restart. I think if he approaches it differently and doesn't think about Reddick's not in the playoffs, he's not going to race me as hard, maybe that outcome transpires differently for William Byron. Maybe, to Mamba's point, I think maybe he does win that race if he just is a little bit more patient in that point.
Yeah, we will see. There's only now 8 that you have to work around. So we'll see how the rest of the field races. There's 8 guys coming up this next round. Well, let's touch on the 5 and the 11. Denny has come out swinging at the start of every single round of the playoffs. And then Larson has showed his dominance all season long and now builds up momentum heading to the round of 8. So, Nate, can anybody test the 5 and the 11? Is there going to be somebody that shows up as, hey, maybe we're here to fight too?
I mean, I hate to be boring, Alex, but it doesn't feel that way. I mean, it feels like we've reset the season. Since the playoffs began, it feels like it's reset to, midsummer when Kyle Larson and Denny Hamlin were the 2 guys to watch every week. Even though Hamlin wasn't winning then, there was no question it was Kyle Larson 1, Denny Hamlin 1A. And I feel like since the playoffs have begun, that's become even more emphasized and magnified. And I don't see anybody else really stepping up. I mean, maybe Truex because he's been strong at the 750 tracks, and certainly with Martinsville, Phoenix ending the season, if he can get through those 2 rounds and get to the championship round, he could be a factor. But to me, it starts and ends right now with the 5 and the 11.
Yeah, somebody tell Steve Livender that there's not a big 3 this year. There's only a big 2. Mamba, can anybody get to the 5 and the 11?
Heck yeah, someone's been with the 5 and 11 all year. I can't believe everyone is sleeping on this cat. YRB, the 12 boys. I am telling you, they are excited for this round. This round is circle. If they felt like if they could get to this round in a position to go for this championship, it was theirs to lose. They are ready to go. The 12 and the 11 actually had a great race at Texas. And then somebody cut across the racetrack 4 lanes and took that, messed that all up, right? So they're going to be slugging it out at Texas. I'm excited for it. I really think that everyone's been sleeping on them. They've been super consistent all year. Got the 3 wins, as I talked about before. Good at Texas, good at Kansas, good at Martinsville, good at Phoenix. Man, give me the 12. Give me that 12.
All right. I don't hate it. We'll see how the 12, especially at Texas, that is a really strong track for the 12. Well, we are heading to the round of 8. It's hard to believe. I don't want to say the light at the end of the tunnel because we never want the season to end. We'll keep racing all year long, but there is light at the end of the tunnel, and it looks like a NASCAR championship trophy. So, Nate, I normally ask our guests here to pick their first 4 eliminated, but you have 4 eliminated right now. It's the championship 4. So instead, I'm going to flip it over and ask you for your championship 4 picks. Who makes it to the race in Phoenix come November?
Yeah, I've been thinking about this one, Alex. I think I would go Hamlin and Larson for sure. And then I got to put Chase in because I just feel like the way he ended last year with the Martinsville Phoenix back-to-back, he's going to be a factor. And then a 4th, I mean, no offense to Mama, but I'll go with the other Penske car. I'm going to be crazy and just say Keselowski. It just seems for whatever reason that 2021, these are his playoffs.
Mamba, he has the 9 in there, and man, didn't take your boy Wire.
Oh my!
Sorry, Blaney.
I just laid down the stats, and my man still said nah. Okay, all right. I'm gonna go.
Mamba, who's your championship 4 then? I know you got the 12 in there.
Yeah. Okay. That's an affirmation. The 12 is in there. Okay. I'm going with the 5. I'm going with the 11, and I'm going with the 9. I think that this year is gonna be. It's either because this is why it's either Denny's shot, right? Denny's gonna either win it and finally get that off his back, or we're gonna see a real passing of the torch from the last decade of the guys up front to the new in the future, which is the 12, the 5, and the 9. Those guys are ready to take over as the face of the sport. We have a lot of young winners this year. The 9 won the championship last year. They had been bowing up with those guys. I think it's time.
All right. Well, the playoffs, if you look at the numbers of how the elimination lines stack up and where the drivers are, really the only one that has a big lead is Kyle Larson. So it's going to be an interesting 3 weeks for us here in the NASCAR Cup Series. Heading to Texas, we're kicking off the round of 8, and there is only 3 races left until we are crowning a champion in Phoenix. That is so hard. I cannot believe that I'm saying that. But, Nate, we made it. So, first guest goes first here on Backseat Drivers. So, let's get your Texas pick. Who's in victory lane on Sunday?
Well, I got to go with the patterns here, Alex, like you mentioned. I mean, Denny Hamlin is opening every round with a victory right now, and as good as the Hendrick cars have been at these 550 tracks like Texas, Denny Hamlin's a former Texas winner, and I think that team is ready to win again. So give me the 11 at Texas.
All right, Mom, but let me get my crystal ball out because I feel like I already know this pick for Texas. Who are you going with on Sunday?
It's giving me so many good points as the 11, and it's the 12, man. The 12. Like, you never want to say that a racetrack owes you one, but this one, I feel like this place owes him one. He had a stellar run going, and a ridiculous caution came out when someone just went from the top to the bottom. I think he gets the win at Texas, stamps his ticket to Phoenix, and then he's going to go off and do the dang thing in Phoenix too.
All right. Well, Mama, you're not going to like this. I'm ganging up on you again, but he's won the opening race every single round. I cannot go against the 11. Denny Hamlin. Nate and I, same team today.
Weaver has literally never agreed with me on a single pick ever.
Never.
Hey, Alex, I should tell you, I also picked Chase Elliott at the Roval. So if you're looking for advice here, you probably want to pick the Mamba selection here, because Alex and I were both wrong on Sunday. And he was right.
If Texas goes poorly for the 11, you can blame myself and Nate Ryan. All right, Nate, we appreciate you so much being here, and I know that we have a busy next couple of days with the next gen testing, so looking forward to seeing that Generation 7 car on the racetrack at the Charlotte Roval, and then we're heading into the round of 8. It's happening, guys. Here we are. So make sure and tune in to Texas Motor Speedway this Sunday at 2 p.m. Eastern on NBC. It's the opening race for the round of 8. We're getting close to crowning a champion, and we'll see you right back here next week on Backseat Drivers, and tune in to the live Roval show coming up Tuesday at 10 a.m. See you there.